Hello and welcome to Instant Impact Events with your hosts, CJ and Cheryl Williams. In each episode, we cover event-related subjects from how to put on events, event planning, audiovisual, and event production. At events and in life, it only takes an instant to make an impact. So let's jump right into today's topic.
Welcome to Instant Impact Events. I'm CJ Williams.
And I'm Cheryl Williams, and we want to welcome you to today's episode. It's going to be
thank you for being here.
An awesome topic. And just like every episode that we bring you, it's going to be, every time you tune in, it's going to be on events, event planning, and event production.
Yep.
So that is our expertise, and we are here to give you lots of goodies and information so that you can take little pieces, little nuggets, little insights, and apply them back to your business, whether you are putting on your own events,
right,
or if you're an event planner, or maybe you're an audiovisual or event production, and be able to utilize these things. Or maybe you're looking at getting into the event industry and you don't even know where to start. This
we're here for you.
Is a perfect place for you to start, for you to be able to get a lot of information and just things that there isn't much conversation around. And so we're here to have that conversation with you, bring you lots of topics and information. We attempt to keep, these episodes
short and sweet for you,
and to the point, so
Yes.
that way we're not just going over with a bunch of fluff. It's getting right into the topic, and then giving you some insights. And then the main thing is you got to take it and apply it. Right? We can sit here and talk to you all day. You can listen, and unless you take action on the things that we're showing you or talking to you about or going over, you've got to start implementing. You've got to figure out, okay, what are those things that we're talking about today, and how can I utilize those in my business, right? How can I put those things to use?
Correct.
So be thinking of that while you're listening or while you're watching, and have that thought or that question is, okay, what of this can I use? Or what are some new strategies or techniques or things I didn't even think of that I can start applying immediately to start seeing a different result?
Away.
Yep. Because if you think about it and you're like, I'll get to that tomorrow, never comes, right?
No.
So we've got to be putting it into action today so that you can get the results, so that you can see a difference.
Yes.
And it's sometimes those little nuances, little shifts and little tweaks that really change things up. And so today's topic is
how to reach out to event venues.
And, it sounds simple enough. You're just going to reach out to, you've got an event and you just want to reach out. Well, there's a lot of things that come before this, and we've talked about that on other episodes.
Your planning and everything. Yep.
So if you haven't listened to those episodes, go back and refer to those, because that's going to bring you current to where we are now. Because you don't want to just say, well, I've got a date, so let's start looking for venues. There's a lot of things that come before that, so that when it's time to reach out for your venues, that you already have a lot of information to go on, so you're not just going around haphazardly.
Ask the right questions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So prior to reaching out, you've got to have your detailed list of what it is that you're looking for. And like I said, if you're not sure, things like what are the area and what are your requirements and all those, if we went in detail specifically on picking your location and knowing your size that you're needing in some previous episodes. So if you're not there, I would,
go back.
stop and stop listening, go to those other ones, listen to those,
Save
and
this
then
one for later.
And then come back to this one so that you can even get more information and you can really hit the ground running, because you have all those steps already taken place. So if you haven't already, do that. And if so, then you're up to speed and we're ready to go to the next step, which is now you have your information. You know what you're looking for. You know all the things and all your requirements, and not just the surface level requirements either. We've dug deep, right? We know more what we're looking for, more what we want the look and feel, how we want these things to be.
Yes,
so
how
when
much
we're reaching
space
out,
you need, what kind of seating you need, what kind of risers and stage you need.
and so you want that information handy, whether you have that at an Excel spreadsheet, whether you have it on paper, at a notepad. Have that handy so that when you start reaching out to your venues, you can tell them what you're looking for, and it saves a lot of time for you and for them as well. Now, the other thing to know is you're going to start playing a game of cat and mouse. You're going to play phone tag. You're going to play, did they get my email? It's a whole game, and you got to be ready to play the game.
Yeah, they're on vacation, they're out, they only work from 12 to 3. They're not in all day. They're working from home.
Yeah, and now that a lot of people are working more from home, things take a little longer. So you have to be the one. You're the one that's wanting to book the event. You have to follow up. So when you start reaching out to these, you need to know, okay, I reached out to them today. I didn't hear anything, give them 2 days. If you don't hear from them, not tomorrow, you contact them again the next day, right? So that way you're continuing, because you would be surprised. You would think, well, they want to book space and they want to, by their response, a lot of times it doesn't seem like that, right?
They're getting a paycheck.
Yeah, a lot of them, whether they book book a spot or not, they're taken care of. So it's
more work they have to do.
It's up to you to not only get the ball rolling, to keep the ball rolling while we're going throughout. And that goes for the whole event. And just because you book a venue, you've still got to be on them about all these other things as well.
Yes.
And we'll get to that at another date and time. Right now, though, when you start looking for your venues that you're going to reach out, be ready. Note when you're reaching out with them what the conversation was. Did you leave a voicemail? Did you talk to somebody? Who is that? And start going from there.
Yep, and make sure you reach out to at least 10 to 15 venues, because half are not going to get back to you. And even if you call, you're just going to have to keep pushing and pushing.
And if they do get back to you, they might not have the space, right? And 10 or 15 venues is on the low end, right? Sometimes you need to look for 20 or 30. It depends on, are you having your event during a peak season when a lot of other people are wanting to have events?
Indoor, outdoor.
How far in advance are you booking your event out? I mean, if the closer you are, the less options you have, which means the more venues you're going to have to reach out to find the space. The smaller your event, normally the more you can kind of fit into different places. If you have a larger event, you have to be looking for more space for that.
Book it ahead of time.
Yeah. So we're looking, 6 months to a year easily on booking out your venue space.
No lower.
It is ideal. I mean, if you have to get it in, then 3 months is really cutting it. You can. It's the further out you book it, the more options you have, the more time you have, and that gives you.
You have more time to plan.
And then you can kind of select the right venue versus being kind of put into a venue. This is the only option you have.
Right.
Okay. So book early. Like we said the other day, book early, book better. Right.
Yes.
The earlier you book, the better options you have, the better availability that you have, and the more that you can select the right fit for you and your event.
Perfect.
Next thing is you want to pick up the phone and call the venues. It's very easy just to send off an email and go on their website and be like, oh, well, this is the event person. Reach out to them, send them an email. A lot of times they're not updating their website. That person's no longer there. They haven't been there for 5 years. It's not actually getting to the place it needs to go. So you've got to pick up the phone and call. And you need to ask to speak to the banquet events manager or their event coordinator. Depending on how big the venue, what all they have going on, they might have different titles. But when you call up the venue and you let them know that you're wanting to book an event, can I please speak to, the event coordinator or the banquet events manager? That usually gets you going in the right direction.
Right.
Now,
and they'll never answer the phone, so you're going to have to leave a message.
Most of the time,
a detailed message.
Most of the time, the phone is not getting answered. So then that means you're going to leave a voicemail. Now, on the wonderful occasion that it does get answered, then you got to be ready to talk to somebody,
have your
right?
info
So that means you've got to have your info. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to throw up all of your information to them on that one conversation, right? Normally, your initial conversation is going to be, hi, my name is, I'm looking to book an event on these dates for approximately this amount of people. Right? So when you're first talking to them, these dates, this amount of people, this kind of style, right? So whatever your dates are, however many people, whether it's 50, 500, 5,000, know your number, and then you got to start knowing how you're set up. And that's why having those answers, already answer all those questions beforehand. We're doing theater style, or we're doing rounds, or we're doing, classroom, or cocktail, whatever your setup is, and let them know, because then they're going to know, okay, I need about this amount of space. Now, sometimes they can immediately look up the information right then and there. Other times they're going to take down your contact information and get back to you, and that's perfectly fine.
They got to check it out
when you've spoken to someone, sometimes you're just dealing with a receptionist or someone who's taking the calls, and they're not actually the person that's going to help you, and they're going to pass your information along. So
don't waste your time.
Before you hang up the conversation or hang up the phone with them, you want to ask, so who is the person I need to be getting in touch with? What's their name? What is their direct phone number?
Their full name.
And what is their email address, right? Who are they, so that you can start reaching out to them? Because then what you're going to do is once you hang up the phone and you have that information, then you're able to go and send off an email saying almost the exact same thing. Hi, my name is, I'm looking for have an event at your space during these dates for approximately this amount of people with this kind of setup. Can you please get back to me and let you know if you have availability? Simple, right? Send it off. Now, you're gonna do that for all the venues that you're reaching out to. So every single one, and we're talking 10, 15, 20, 30, depending on all those things we talked about before. How far out in advance are you booking? How popular is that time of year that you're looking? Are there other conventions and things going on in town?
They might not have enough ballrooms for you in the first place. So.
Right. And the larger your event, the less options you have. Okay? If you have a really small event, well, then you can pretty much go anywhere. If you have a bigger event, if you have a trade show, if you have some sort of outdoor event, it depends on what you're looking for. That's why you got to be very crystal clear on what you need. So that way, when you start looking for your venues, you start looking for who you can work with and who has what you want, you know what to work with, and you know what's going to work for you and what's not. Okay? Then follow up. Just because they said, I'm going to give your name and number to so-and-so, and they'll get back to you. If you haven't heard from them in 2 days, they're not getting back to you, right? Yeah. Either they're not in, they didn't get it, they don't have busy. The space, and they didn't let you know. Like, these are all things. So then it's your job to be following up consistently, okay? And that's why it's kind of like a funnel. You start with a lot, and it starts whittling it down to a very small amount that you're actually going to have a further ongoing conversation with.
You'll be working with 2 or 3 different places.
Because some places they're going to get back to you and say, we just don't have the space available during those dates. Can you do other dates? Well, can you or can you not? Do you already have these dates set in stone? Do you have alternative dates? Yes. And if you do, then you can let them know that too.
That's a big question too.
And if you don't, then this is what you had to work with. They can let you know. Other times you're going to reach out multiple times and you're not going to ever talk to somebody. Okay, you're going to send off emails, you're not going to ever hear back from them. And then you're going to have those ones that start the dialogue. Yes, we have that space available. Okay, great. Then that's not great. I want to book it. That's okay. No. Now let's take it to the next step, right? That is the initial conversation, the initial getting the door open, seeing who's ready to play ball, who has a space, and then we take it from there.
Yep. And the right prices and negotiations and F&B, food and beverage, and it's just going to go on and on and on. So you'll talk to them at least 10 times or more.
And then another thing I want to caution you on, when you're on the website, normally is where you're going to go. We don't use yellow pages and things like that anymore. So you're going to be on their website, getting the phone number of who to reach out to, right? Sometimes you see the RFP, right? The request for a proposal. So you could just fill all that information, and it's like a form that they ask you some certain questions, and then you just submit that off to them. That is, again, another way to reach out, but you still need to make the phone call, okay? So, because if you can get someone's direct email address and you know who it's easier than just submitting their form, asking for a proposal. But that's a lot of these venues have that, right? It's going to be called the RFP, request for proposal. It's going to be sitting on there, and it's very easy just to click on and fill out their little form and then wait. That's not what we want to do. We want to take the proactive approach, right? We are moving. We're taking the actions. We're taking the steps. You pick up the phone and call. You be the squeaky wheel. You be the one who follows up. Don't wait around for them to get to you. This is part of having events, doing events, putting on events. Yep. You've got to stay and follow up.
Constantly.
All right. Then once you have those handful of venues that have gotten back to you and say, yes, we do have the dates available and the space that you want, that's when you get more specific. You give more details. You start working more. There's no reason to give all of that in the beginning if they don't get back to you.
It's going to be overwhelming.
And they don't have the space available, right? So if it looks like they have the space available. Now, the other thing is, sometimes they say, yes, we have the space available, here you go. You got to look at it and say, well, is that space going to work for me? Like, I don't know. It says,
it says one thing and they're saying
it doesn't look like that's going to work. So sometimes they think they do, and they're mistaken too, right? They're human. They make errors. So it's up to you to actually double check. Is that space going to work for what we need, for what we have? And that's when you reiterate. Okay, so.
And you make sure that the shape is correct. Because some rooms are straight and then it makes a big L.
And that space
and
they're
you don't
counting.
Want that. They're counting any space in there.
So that down, we're gonna talk about getting room diagrams and pictures so you can really see, or doing walkthroughs so you can really see what you're working with. But once they say, yep, looks like we have that space available for the dates and about the size that you need, awesome. We gotta start the next conversation, which, you gotta ask for more details and specifics. So what size room is that? How many can that hold up to how many theater or classroom or rounds or cocktail, or we're looking at having a stage this size.
Right.
We also need tables here and there. How many will it fit with those things in there now, right?
Right, including with audiovisual.
Yeah, are they giving you the smallest room possible that can fit and there's no wiggle room, or are they giving you a room that you actually have room that you can kind of change and grow and expand and move things around and have those other things? You don't want a room
that's too big also.
No.
No, because that can happen because they have space. Here, take this for this certain price.
And then you just feel like...
You're like, hello.
You've got to find the right size, right? And sometimes they have air walls they can close, and that helps. So that's all fine and dandy, but you've got to know, can you make it more of the size that we need? You want your event to be warm and cozy, right? Even though it's freezing inside, right? You want it to be warm and cozy, and that nothing is too far away, too spread out. Everyone's kind of together. The energy flows better
within the center
when it's
area.
within the parameters that you're looking for,
Not
right?
that the water's the half block away.
The water stations and stuff. Yeah. So then the other thing is you want to get photos. You want to get the specs, meaning how far, how long is this wall and that wall? How tall are the ceilings? Ask, are there any obstructions or things pre-built that are in the way?
You don't want any columns in the way.
You want to know
columns.
How far is the floor to the lowest point, not the ceiling all the time, the lowest point, because sometimes chandeliers hang down, other things, and those are obstructions. They'll say the ceiling height is this, but when they have those massive chandeliers that hang way down, it's not actually that.
Yeah, you'll lose 10 feet easy.
So these are questions that you have to ask, because they're going to say, well, the ceiling height is 16 feet, or the ceiling height is 22 feet. Well, what is it with the things? Or the ceiling height is 12 feet, but is it really, or is it more like 8 feet, right? So those are all things that you have to ask, you have to elicit, because they're not going to tell you, right? No. These are things that you need to make sure that you're going along. Once you have the specs, then you want to see the room diagram in the way that you've asked them to lay it out. So they need to have the chairs or the tables or the rounds, the stage where you want it to be, your screens where you want it to be, with enough throw off the wall that they're going to have for your projectors. If you're going to have tables in the back of the room or tables on the side.
Right, for sales.
They need to lay all that out so you can actually see. And by doing that, what happens is, one, they know that you know what you're talking about. Two, sometimes they're trying to fit you into something, because on their computer it says it can hold X amount of people, right? So they're looking at this, they put in there, oh, this room will work. Well, this room will work if from side to side and front to back, you have it set up that way. But if you want an aisle in the front and an aisle in the middle and some walking room in the back, plus a stage, plus screens, plus rear projection, plus some tables.
Seating doubles.
Right. Maybe you don't want people right on top of each other, right?
You don't want them next to each other.
You want them to be able to comfortably walk down and put their stuff. So they're on. So those are all things. So when you're asking them to lay out the room diagram in the way that you're requesting, it helps them to see, oh, you know what? We're not actually going to be able to get this many people in there, but they would have told you yes, because that's what their software is telling them. Well, we can hold X amount of people in this room. But really, when you start,
as they're on top of each other.
When you start laying it out the way that you want it to be, it doesn't really work, right? So that's another step to make sure, can it really hold what you want it to hold with your needs and your requirements? And you know what those are ahead of time, because you've already gone through those. You are certain and crystal clear on what your requirements are when you start reaching out to these videos. So when they come and say, well, we could get you in there, but we would need a stage half the size of what you're looking for, and then we can make it fit. Well, that's not going to work.
No.
Right? Or we could do it.
Can't start taking away.
But we need to do a front projection instead of rear, so we can have that extra 15, 20 feet, right?
No, you'll need a bigger room.
No, that's not going to work. Or, hey, we could put those tables that you want in the back of the room outside of the room in the hall, and then we'll make it work. No, that's not what I wanted, right? Or, well, you know that one pillar, it's not really an obstacle. You can really see around it.
As long as you put
It's
the projector all in the corner
and it's
somewhere.
all how we position the chairs and the seating. It's
Right.
not a challenge. Well, if your thing is no obstructions, it's not going to work, right?
No.
So that's why getting crystal clear on the front end
And the
of
pictures
what
also,
your
yeah.
requirements are, and then asking them to do these things and getting the specs and getting the pictures and getting the
little
room
detail.
diagram laid out ahead of time saves you a lot of hassle in the end when you get there and you're like, oh, this is not what I was sold here, right? Now, if it's a local event, you can go and walk around. The other thing with that, though, is sometimes they're like, well, come walk around, you can look and you can see, but the rooms are nowhere near set up. They have walls or they have this and that.
It's
so
not
you're not
what you
really
need.
seeing how it's going to be because
Yeah.
it's set up a different way.
And there are air walls in the way.
Right.
So
So, you're
you're
not
just
really
in this
visually
little
able to
square.
see. So even if you are able to go see them and talk to them and walk around, you still need pictures, specs, room diagrams, all those things
Yeah.
before you move forward.
Because exits are important also. And how you're going to walk in the room. You're going to walk from the back or you're going to come in from the side. And you don't want any room. You don't want them coming in from the side.
You should only be having now there's obviously emergency exits on the side. That's one thing. We're talking about flow of where people are going to come in and where people are going to come out. And that needs to be at the back of the room, not the sides, not up by the stage, none of those things.
No.
It always needs to be in the back. So again, we're working on flow, right? We're working on your experience. And we always talk about, your event is an experience. You've got to work on the experience. And it's coming in and opening the doors and having them flow in the right way so they can see everything you have laid out. And it's people are coming and going to the bathroom or they need to go and talk on their phone or they got to take it to water. And if they're going out the sides, that's a distraction for everybody else too.
Yes, and the doors slamming during an
Yeah.
event.
So now if you're looking for more trade show space or expo space,
It's going to be way larger.
you need more space. But again, you want them, if they say, oh yes, 100 booths will fit in here that are 10 by 10s, show me, lay it out. Let me see it. How's that gonna look? Are you gonna
the
have a
aisles.
little walkway like this, or is it gonna be wider so people can actually walk and people can stand outside the booths and talk and mingle? And because that doesn't normally happen in the booths, right? That happens like on the outside kind of. So if you're like this on top of each other, that's not gonna work. So you need space so that you can have your booths, you can have people talk, and you can still have your flow. So no matter what your setup, even if you're indoor, outdoor,
Still get a diagram.
conference, meeting, seminar, expo, trade show, you gotta know what you need and don't deviate from what you need. Don't be like, well, I guess we can settle for that. No,
So it'll start with one.
We don't
and then
settle,
there'll be
right?
another and another
You-
and another.
you have your requirements, you know what you need, get what you need. Okay, don't change it because they're like, well, you really don't need that. I mean, 8 by 8 is okay. No, this is what we need. So
Don't be convinced out of something.
always get the layout so that you can visually look at it and see, okay, I see where this is, I see where that is. Over here, we're looking like a little challenge. Where's the traffic coming in at? Where are the entrances? Where are the exits? How's the flow going to work? Because
Even the bathrooms.
if your event doesn't flow, it's a no-go, right? So we've got to work on getting the flow going. All right, next thing is you can start negotiating, because normally they're gonna send you over like a proposal, right? A quote or a proposal of here's your dates, here's your space, here's your price. Is there gonna be any F&B in there? Is that one of the things that you want? Is that one of the requirements? Can you pay for F&B for those that know is food and beverage. So can you pay for food and beverage instead of paying for the room space? If you can, well then maybe you can do, and you aren't looking at doing like lunches and those types of things. I'd rather my monies go towards something than going towards just the space.
And you'll get the space maybe for free or half the price it was just for food and beverage.
Right. So if you can say, well, instead of me just paying for the space, can my monies go towards food and beverage, and then the space is part of what I'm getting in that package deal, right?
Yes, you have to
And then-
ask for those.
Yeah, they're not going to always tell you that. And then if you weren't planning on doing meals, you can still do snacks. Coffee and tea costs an arm and a leg for just
By the
for
gallon.
gallons of that. So that can add up rather quickly depending on how many people you're going to have. So if you weren't planning on having like a sit down lunch, or you weren't planning on having like a cocktail hour or a dinner, you can still have your monies go towards F&B through snacks. Tea, coffee, morning
cookies.
continental breakfast,
Right.
different things like that.
Fruit.
And everything at a venue costs more by like a lot than what
Yeah.
it was. So you're like, well, a
A
couple,
gallon of coffee costs hundreds and hundreds and hundreds.
depending on the
of
venue, you're
dollars.
looking at $200
I
to
think
$500.
Yeah, it's not even under 300.
No, most of them you're
That's
looking
one
at
gallon.
250 to 5 for a gallon of coffee. So it adds up very quickly.
Yeah.
So if your monies can go towards F&B instead of just room space, that's better, right? So again, just because they send you something does not mean that that's where it's cut and dry and that's how it is. It's a negotiation. And that's when the negotiation process starts. Okay, well, this looks like you got the space. What can we do on food and beverage? Or what can we do? What other things can you throw in? Can you throw in some rooms for us, some sleeping rooms?
How about parking? Parking vouchers.
Can you throw in parking validation? That should be a given regardless. But again, you've got
gotta
to
push for
ask for
that.
it, right? Because
Push.
they're not going to. If the hotel can get your event plus parking,
Yes.
they're going to say, I need my event and the parking needs to be comped or validated, then that is again another bonus. Can you get a nice, maybe you get like the penthouse suite so that you
Right.
can
For your main speaker.
speakers, or you can have multiple rooms in there. You
Or
guys can
yourself.
you can have it however you want, but you've got to ask for these things. Or can we have, depending on how much, how many days your event is, how much space you're taking out.
Right.
Can
Even
I have
free buffet,
X amount of
breakfast
rooms?
buffet.
Can I have room service? Brought up. You could. Everything is a negotiation. Everything is an ask, right? You don't get because you don't ask. So the more you ask, the more opportunity you are for them to be able to give you these things that cost them nothing, anyways. I mean, giving you a room, a sleeping room to sleep in, doesn't cost them anything. They're gonna have someone
It's
come
going to be
clean
empty
it.
anyway.
So again, that's a perk and a bonus and an add-on that they can give to you
Correct.
in the negotiation. So you got to ask for these things. Another thing is you want to ask for, waters and other things that you need for your speakers to have, because they a lot of times don't like you bringing in outside food or water or any of those. So
Because
then
it takes money out of their pocket.
provide that for us, right? We're booking the space, we're doing this. We need those things
Yes.
to be able to run the right kind of event.
And bring your own water anyway for your self.
water.
Bottled water. Put it under the table, and so you could have it for your staff.
Another thing is a lot of times in these proposals, they send over and they're like, well, here's the AV that you're gonna have, right? And that is a big no. You always want to tell, look, we're providing our own audio visual. We don't need that provided. So make sure that they are clear on that ahead of time, because that is another thing that they rope you into, and it's just all inclusive.
Just because you're at the hotel.
Right? You're gonna have this AV and it's
It's
astronomical
going to
prices
start at 20 grand just to start.
for an itty bitty event.
Right.
Little. So make sure when you're looking through that and you're up front that, hey, we're providing our own audio visual, so we don't need that. So make sure that's not part of it. Another thing you want to look at is, it's a union house. If it's a union house or a venue, you need to know that, because then you're in a box of what you can and can't do.
Right.
They don't even want you bringing in your own. Maybe you have some.
Anything.
You would have to pay for them to bring in boxes if you have them, or if you have audio visual, you bring in that, they have to have their own people help set that up. And again, you're paying for all of these components as
That's
part
why
of
you
it.
say I'm bringing in my own.
Yeah, bring
and
in my
have an
own
agreement.
Yeah, and so you got to know that from the front end. If you can avoid union houses, it's easier. It just is. It makes your life a lot easier to be able to do what you want to do a little more freely than having to be stuck and like babysat. And you're paying the babysitter, who is the union person, to stand there and watch you do what you're going to do anyways.
Right. Turn the knobs.
Or, I have all this stuff I need to bring in, pens and paper and printers and scanners, and they want to bring that in for you because you're not able to wheel the bag yourself, right? Or get a cart and put it on. All these things, again, it continues to add up. And if you don't know that ahead of time, when you're looking at venues, if you could not do a venue,
You're going to be in the hole.
a union house, it's much easier, okay? Because there's all these hoops you have to then jump through because it's union.
Yeah.
Okay?
And the banquet managers, there's nothing they can do about it. They can say what they want to say, but yet they're stuck in the box also.
And so they were like, oh, well, don't worry about it. It's no big deal. If it's
But
a
it
union
is a
house,
big
it's a
deal.
big deal, because you have to go by union rules, because they have all those things laid out
Especially in Vegas and
in other Chicago, other places. It's very unionized. So you've got to check and work on selecting venues, or go to another city where it's not an issue, because it can be a little
it'll
much.
cost you quadruple.
and it's just a headache and a hassle. And so if you can alleviate the headache and
They're
the
not
hassle.
nice to you either. They're mean.
Well, because they know people don't like them.
What are you in here for? What are you doing in here? Get out.
And it's like that authority. They have the authority, so
Right.
they
Yeah.
run it all around. So again, just if you can avoid it, avoid it. Moving on. All right. Then there's some questions that we want to ask during your negotiations with the venues. And at this point, you could be negotiating with 3, 4, 5, 7, 10. You're not in allegiance to any one of these at this
No.
point. You're still
You're not
negotiating.
signing anything.
You're not signing anything. This is a negotiation. This is a conversation that you're having with multiple ones. Because guess what? You're going to go with not just the best price, right? It's always about price. It's which one is giving me the best space, with the best
Rates.
price, with the best benefits, with the least amount of hassle, the person who gets back to me the most, the person who's prompt,
Right.
all of those, and the person I like dealing with, because you're going to be dealing with them, right?
Right. They're going to be at the event waiting for you.
And
you might see them every day.
There's a lot of workup before the event.
Set up.
And if they
everything.
don't get back to you, or you've got to constantly chase them down, or they're just not very nice, or there could be a whole myriad of things, you get to choose who you work with. So it's not always
Yes.
about going with rock bottom price. You've got to look at the thing as a
whole
whole. And say, they've got a good price, they're not the lowest, and their response, they get right back to me. I'm able to pick up the phone,
attentive,
call,
take
text,
care of you.
email.
Yep.
They're right there. They're very attentive. They have given me a lot of perks and additions and bonuses that are helpful. They're wanting my business, right?
Right. They
Who
want you
wants your
there.
business?
Yes.
Everyone's fighting for business right now. There's events going on. There's not as many events going on as there used to be.
Nope.
These venues want your business. So get them to give you, like, what do you got for me, right? And let them know, hey, because they sometimes be like, well, are you reaching out to other places? Sure am.
Yep.
You know, they always want to know, well, who? It doesn't really matter who I'm reaching
No.
out to. I am reaching out, and I'm not just
And I
looking for the
am
best.
getting this certain perk. I'm getting this certain perk.
And I'm
You
not
could let
just looking
that
for
slip out.
Well, not just looking for best price either, right?
No.
I'm looking for, as a whole, a package deal, and I'm going to go with that. Because they're like, well, I
Yes.
could cut the price. It's not about the price. It's about everything, right? It's about the
Right.
location and the price and the
Yes.
people and the stuff. And that brings up our next thing we want to talk about is
Yes.
where they're normally going to name the ballroom or name the conference space or name the expo area so that you'll know this is going to be your space, right? So then you got to start asking, well, how easily accessible
How
is
far
that
is that
space,
place?
right? Is it
Jogging shoes and a mile.
Is it around the bend? Is it right up the escalator to the right and there you go? Is it,
Yes.
take 2 stories down the elevator and you're off and you're right there? Or is it
Good
you
for
need to
those
go
places.
down around the bend, 100 paces, turn to the right, go up the stairs, down the escalator, over and around,
Yes.
and
Go
then
back
you'll find
down.
it as long as you wave the magic wand and say a prayer, right?
There you go.
That's not what you want.
No.
Because there are those types of places, and the reason that space is available sometimes is because nobody wants it, right?
Your attendees don't want
So just because, and you don't want that. I mean, that's a
No.
headache and a hassle to attempt to get everyone. If you can barely find the space yourself,
Right. Your attendees aren't going
they're not going to be able to find it either. And then again, wrong foot, wrong first impression, wrong steps. It takes a headache and hassle. You've got to have all the signs
Took a half
posted
hour to
and
get there.
arrows going. Your event's going to start late because people weren't thinking it was going to take me 45 minutes from the time I parked the car to get in and find the place.
Mm-hmm.
Then they got to register. It's all this stuff starts stacking up. So on the front end, we want more easily accessible. If they can say, well, you know what? You're going to go in the west wing entrance and you're going to go right down to the first set of elevators and you're going to take it to the 3rd floor and it's over on the right.
There you go.
Awesome. Great. If they're telling you something, you need to write down the directions of how to get there, and then sort of, well, I'll just show you where it is. Okay, if you can't tell me, I don't want you to show me. Okay?
Right.
Because I'm not going to be
You're gonna
standing
need a
there
map.
to be showing each and every person on how to get to this event. I just need them to know this is the ballroom. Come in, like on your email correspondence you send out. Hey, make sure you come in the north side and go to the first set of
Yes.
elevators and take it down or take it up
Right.
and there you are, right?
Not having 10 people with signs going, you need to go that way, and people will still get lost.
Yeah. So how easily accessible is the space they're looking at putting you in to where the parking is going to be? Because that's the other thing. Is sometimes it's easy, like in Vegas, for instance. You got the casino entrance, you got the hotel entrance, and you
Lot
got
of
the parking
entrances,
entrance,
yes.
right? So what
Where?
entrance are we going through? Are we going, well, it's really close to the casino. Well, nobody's coming in through the casino. They're all parking at the parking garage, so they have to walk 3 miles from where they parked,
Through the casino.
or where they valeted, or whatever they have, to get through the casino.
All the way in the convention area.
That's not easily accessible, right? It is for people who are playing in the casino, but they're not your person who's coming to your event. So how easily accessible is it to where your people are going to be coming from?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, if most of them are flying in, right? It's not a local event. Most of them are flying in. That means most are probably going to be staying at the hotel if there is one there, right? So then, again, proximity to the hotel portion. How close is the space to that? These are all the things you've got to think about while you're booking a venue. It's not just, well, I want some space. There's a lot of layers into this to make sure it's done effectively, efficiently, and to get you the end result that you're looking for.
How about construction and remodeling?
Whew, that's a doozy.
When you're booking an event 6 months out or a year, there might not be construction when you're booking your event. But past, when it comes up to that 6 months and it's almost time for your event, there might be a lot of construction. So you have to ask, even 3 months in, 1 month, every month, ask, is there any changes to the hotel or any changes to anything?
Well, and that's... Yes, but you've got to know. Like, you need them to write in, there's going to be no remodeling going on.
Right.
Or there's going to be no construction. It's going to close down the roads out front.
Because
where
you're
it's
going to
be
hear it.
hard to get to the venue in the first place, right? They know.
They got to find out somehow.
They know if things are going on. And here's the caveat.
And maybe not.
If that's written into your agreement and that does happen, then you have something to hold them accountable for, right? You can say, look,
Yes, well,
you said there was going to be
you
said there was going to be no remodeling of this, and yet
the jackhammer's on my head.
I mean, the elevators are closed down. This floor is done. They're doing remodeling,
closed,
right?
Yep.
So
no escalators.
if they say no because in all good intentions they didn't know of something happening, and especially the further out you book it, sometimes they know what's going to happen and sometimes they don't. So if they put that in your contract, that's why you want it in there, and you show up and it's something different, then that is a point that you can take them, like, what are we going to do? How are we going to make this better?
How are you going to take care of it?
Right? How are you going to take care of this? Because this is not what I signed up for, right? So writing all those things into your addendums of your contracts as extra things to have, so when you do move forward, if something does come up, it's already been addressed, already been talked about. No challenge. Just like bringing an outside AV, that needs to be in your contract, right? Because it's something. And we're going to have a whole episode all on event contracts, what kind of language you want in there, what do you want to make sure you include, what do you not want in there. So we'll cover that in more detail at a later date on another episode.
Okay.
Right now, though, just know those types of things before going in, because you've got to have those listed out. And by asking, they know that you know what's up, right? You're not just, living in this la-la land of everything always stays the same. It doesn't.
No.
Sometimes there's road work. Sometimes there's major things. Sometimes if you have an interstate that's taking people and they're closing that down and rerouting everyone the other way.
Take you hours to get there.
And they know that stuff ahead of time.
Especially in the morning.
Yeah. So those are all things to ask and to then put in their contract that you have.
And also, when you get your ballroom and you know which one you're going to go to, that's when you start asking questions about, is there anything quirky inside of that ballroom? Like a giant chandelier that you can touch with your hand, tink, 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 or anything else like that.
Or are there things like the lights sometimes go on and off? Or do they not turn off at all?
Is it really dark in there?
Is there one side of the room that has heat and the other side doesn't?
Or it's freezing.
Right. These are all things, and you got to ask, because they're not going to come out and be, oh, by the way, the lights are a little flickering in this room, or it's really warm on one side, really cold on the. Are there any water challenges in the room? Right. That's a big one.
You'll see water leaks. I had equipment where it was like right next to the projector, just right dripping. Thank goodness, and we had buckets. But then we moved the projector, and then the next day, it was where the projector was. Yeah. So when it rains,
of course.
You look.
And it seems like if water is leaking from somewhere, it's gonna be a disaster for your event. And we've had places where all of a sudden the floods came and it rained and poured, and we had to cancel the whole event because it was flooding out the space. And you can't very well have an event. People, one, can't drive their cars to get there. No. And two, your actual event space is flooding with water, right? So there's all these things you have to, or we've had ones where it was raining and it was on the roof level, like the space. And all of a sudden you start looking up and you see balloons like coming out of the ceiling, and it's because the latex paint was filling up with water and getting bigger and
Yes.
bigger and bigger and expanding.
Right.
Well, what happened after a
Yeah,
while? It's
we had
going
to get that fixed.
burst and
We had to get that
pop,
fixed on a break.
right?
They had to pull out everything.
Because there was nowhere else to move us, right? So you got to
fix
you can't
it.
just cancel the event in the middle of it and be like,
No.
oh, we're done because some water leak. You got to. What could you do? These are all things that, again, you don't want to create more challenges for yourself because you could already have enough challenges when you show up. So how can you circumvent as many of those as possible here?
Yeah.
And then you're going to have to deal with natural disasters and other things that come up
Yes, and it has to be in
that
your
are of no
contract
control.
Also.
that you can reschedule, that you can redo that. And again, we'll talk about that.
Without losing your deposit.
Yeah, at our episode, we talk about contracts. All right, next thing is you want to be able to set up your space the day before. So
Not that morning.
no, not that morning.
No.
Because once elaborate setups take hours to set up,
Many hours.
and so you don't want to be rushed. Two, if something happens or goes wrong, or you need to tweak or change
can
or fix
fix
something,
it.
you have time to do that. So when you're talking to them, they're like, well, yeah, we can get you in at 8 o'clock, because that's what you said, you starts at 9, right? We can get you at 8 o'clock that day and ready to go. No, I need to be
No.
like 8 o'clock the morning before, right?
Yes.
So you need a setup time that is the day before your event so that you have time.
And they'll argue with you.
Oh, we don't want to get to pay
So-
for that.
At least get in there by the afternoon.
Yeah, late afternoon.
Afternoon, not evening time, but like lunch, like
And again,
a 2, 3,
you ask
so you
for,
can have time.
You ask for morning, and they'll be like, well, I can't do morning, but I can give you noon. Okay.
Okay, what's the earliest time? Don't do 7, do 5.
If you know that's going to work for you. If that's not going to work for you, and you've got multiple stages and equipment and designs,
Right.
I mean, setting up for trade show spaces,
Yeah.
you're going to need a day or two ahead of time, right?
And their
to be able to set up
staff,
that stuff.
their staff even leaves at a certain time.
Yeah, they do.
To set up all the chairs, your risers, everything else.
So those are more things to think about. You got to ask for those things ahead of time, not when you've already booked a space. Be like, oh, well, I want to set the day before. That's all got to be in the contract
Ahead
and
of time.
negotiated ahead of, because they might not have the space. They might have the space for the days that you need it, but they might not have the space the day before. And if you don't have it the day before, that's not going to work.
Right, another events in the room.
Yeah, until that
I've
evening at 9 o'clock.
I've sat there and watched them tear down, and the minute they stopped and was getting their equipment, I was already pulling stuff in the room. Even if their stuff is everywhere, get it in the room and start.
Yep. So circumvent that stress and that headache and that hassle by asking for the space and getting the space the day before, just to help you with that.
A must.
And if you're doing more elaborate setup, you're doing expos and trade shows where you've got to set up all those things, you might want to be looking a couple days, depending on how many people you have helping you get all that set up.
It takes a couple days.
That takes time.
Yes.
Alrighty. The other thing you want is you want a 24-hour hold on your room. Now,
Very
you
important.
might not know what a 24-hour hold is, so we'll explain. 24-hour hold means you have the room, the meeting space, the event space, the space
Every day.
for all 24 hours of the day that you're requesting. Because they ask you, so what are the times of your event? You say, well, my event is from 9 in the morning until 6 in the evening. They're like, awesome, great. You can have the space from 9 to 6. Well, if you don't request a 24-hour hold,
Knock, 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 knock.
at 6 o'clock, you're gonna have to take all your stuff down and put it away so they can have something else they're doing in the evening
happened.
from like 8
It's
to
happened.
midnight, right? So you don't want to have to tear down everything and take all your stuff out of the room to then have to reset it up the next
Reset it.
morning
Yeah, it's the
because
worst.
you didn't request a 24-hour hold. It's a disaster, right? It's not any fun when you have to run around and take everything out and then put it all back up within a night and a morning.
Right. And no place to put your stuff
You have no
either.
place to put it. Where you put it? Where you taking with
Yeah.
it? What's going on? So the way you take care of that is you ask for a 24-hour hold. That way you have the room for all 24 hours
every day.
in that day. So you want a 24-hour hold on your space for all the days of your event. That way nothing else can come into your space that you have to change things. But you want it set up once and stay the exact way
Right.
you want it until your event is done and you tear down.
Yep. And also when you do registration, you ask if the halls are available for your tables.
The hall
for
out front of the
registration.
event.
Yes.
Yeah, your meeting space.
Right outside. Not down the way. You want to have in front of your ballroom your tables so you can register everybody when they come in the morning,
Yeah, and again,
hours before the event.
if that's not something you ask for ahead of time, they're not going to think of it for you. That space might already be used as something else. Sometimes they sell the hall space, right, in front. You get your space, but if you're not asking and reserving the space out front, your hall or corridor or whatever they're calling that space, they can give it to somebody else. They could set up breakfast out there for other people and have it stanchioned off where you don't get to use it. There's all these different things they could be doing. And so again, if you don't ask, you don't get. You cannot assume anything on them. Well, of course we're going to have the space out front. No. They sell that. Space is a premium. They can sell everything, right? So you have to ask for what you need. 24-hour hold. I need the room. I need the hall space, the corridor, the space out front. I need that for registration. And then I want it for the whole event, right? I don't want it just for registration and then you can do something else with the space out front. You want it the whole time because you might do something else. Maybe you're gonna do one-on-one sessions out there. Maybe you're gonna do, some meetings out there. Maybe you're gonna have sponsors set up there. Whatever you're gonna do, you need that space, but you have to request that space and have it written in that you want it.
You don't want that cashier right in front of the room with that breakfast or the lunch right there in front
and
of
then
your
your
room.
people come out of it, they're like, oh, it's breakfast. That's not for you. No, that's for them over there. Well, why is it here? That's where they put it. Right? So you have to, it's happened on many occasions that it's all stanchioned off. They get all excited. They're coming, oh, look, it's
Breakfast for us.
not for you.
No.
Oh, cookies and not for you.
You might be able to steal one.
No, a lot of times though, they
Get
have,
busted,
they come, that's not for you. That's not for you. Like, no, don't do that. I'm like, okay, jeez. Okay.
Nice accent.
Thank you. That's how they. That's not.
Okay.
No, it's not this time. They're very adamant because they know that the space is put up in somebody else's doorway, basically, and so they know that the people coming out of that
They
event
have somebody on guard.
are going to want that because they're going to think it's theirs, even though it's the person down the other hall and over on the other spot. So just know you got to ask for these things that you want. All right, what is next?
Is it easily accessible? Are there elevators, stairs, bathrooms?
Those are all things like you want bathrooms close, you want elevators and escalators close. Like we talked a few minutes ago, you don't want to be walking all the way down. You also don't want to be walking all the way down to go find the bathroom. You need to have ample bathroom space too. I mean, if you have a handful of people, they probably fit in a bathroom, right? But if you have hundreds of people, you need multiple bathroom options within a walking distance. It's very close.
You're going to need a half-hour break just for everybody to go to the bathroom.
Right. So you want lots of bathroom space, lots of stalls, lots of sinks, all that kind of stuff. In multiple directions. Can they go left to get to a bathroom? Can they go right to get to a bathroom? Are there multiple ones set aside? People can go and get that done, and then you can get back to your event.
And we already talked about parking validation. Request that for sure, because parking's like $20 a pop.
Most places.
And you might get charged twice if you leave for lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. You would think
don't
not.
want
You
that.
think you're paying for the whole day, but once you leave, you gotta get a new ticket, which means you've already paid. That brings up the other thing. Restaurants. Are there restaurants easily within walking distance of where you're going, right? Sometimes if it's a local event, people can drive, or the ones close to drive. But if people are flying in for your event, they normally don't have transportation. That means they're gonna have to either get an Uber or a cab or a shuttle. That takes time.
Correct.
So can they walk? Are there multiple places
Places they
multiple
can eat.
options, things they can get in and out? And then you gotta let
Get a
them.
list beforehand so you know
And
this
then-
is walking distance, this you have to drive.
Sometimes, the venues have some places around
Right,
on
or restaurants
on
in the
site.
hotel.
So that's
And you
an
can talk
option
to
too.
them also.
Yeah. And then if there's not any options at the venue, but there are some around, I always reach out to those restaurants around to and just let them know, hey, we've got an event going on here.
Right. What can you do for us? Can you have something pre-made?
And give them kind of a heads up a little bit that
Give
they're
them
going
a
to
list
have
of 5 things.
an influx of people coming in. So
Yeah, and it's good for their business, so they want to do it for you.
and especially now, not as many places are as staffed as they used to be. Sometimes they're running on a skeleton crew, so that means they don't have as many cooks, they don't have as many waitresses, they don't have as many hostesses.
Yep.
Everything takes a little longer, right? So we want it close and accessible, but also give them a heads up, like, hey, we've got 1,000 people that are going to be
Right.
over here, and they're going to need a place to eat, so they might be coming your direction.
Right, even a buffet.
Yeah, that too.
Well, No, unless you have glass over it.
They do a lot of them now.
Yeah.
So there's all these other things you got to think of now, and it all takes time. It takes planning, but it takes being smart about it and setting it up from the beginning the right way. So that way you're alleviating any of these challenges that could possibly come up that you weren't even aware of because you didn't ask or you didn't know or it hasn't happened to you yet, right? So with experience comes knowledge. So utilize the knowledge that we have and take it and run with it. And these are all things that you're going to want to put into it. So once you have all of those questions answered, you have all those things figured out, you're going to have a handful of venues to choose from. So then you've got to look at it and decide, okay, what are they giving me? What's a space? What space do I like the best? What venue do I like the best? What's easily accessible?
Best restaurants.
Who are the people that are getting back to me quickly? Who do I want to work with throughout this whole process? And then you're going to select your venue, right? And then from there, that takes it down. We're going a whole nother path of contracts and all that kind of stuff. But the main thing is you've got to get enough information that you can make an informed decision that is the best decision for you, not always based on price. It's all those other things that we've talked about too. And then once you can narrow it down to your maybe top 5 or your top 2 or 3, then you look at it and say, okay, here's the space they're giving us. Here's the consent, like the concessions they're giving us, the bonuses, the thing. Yes, it's more than enough space that we have some overflow if we need it, if that's, if you need flex space, or they're giving us some concessions. They're more expensive, and I like the person. They get back to me quickly. I feel like our event is going to be in better hands because it's a better venue.
They'll take care of
They're
you.
on point.
They'll
They're
clean
actually
your rooms.
they're
They'll
actually
clean your
reaching
ballroom.
out to me versus me reaching out to them, right? Not
you
out of
have to-
desperation though either. You got to know the
you
difference.
have to love that
Yeah.
when they get back to you.
So you've got to choose after you've gone through and reached out your venues and you've negotiated, you talked, you've got to choose the one that is the best fit for you. And then once you do, then you move forward to the next step, which is contracts, and then filling your all those kind of things.
Right.
So after you've narrowed it
You're
down,
going to need a deposit. So.
Yeah. And you got to know what that is too, like what kind of deposits are they looking for, and those are things we'll cover in the episode we do on contracts. But once you have this information, then just make a decision, right?
Yes.
And sometimes it's easy up until this point, and then it's like, oh, now we got to pull the trigger, right? Now we got to take action. Now we've got to actually all this stuff has gotten to us a place here,
And it shouldn't be last
and
minute.
this is the venue for us. We got to go. We got to move. Because a lot that
There's
space
still
might
more
not.
work to do.
And that space might not always be available either. Like you can't say, okay, they got it now, so
Somebody's
I'll
gonna
reach out
grab
to them
it.
in a month from now. Well, that space not may be available. So once you put in the time and effort, energy to start looking for venues, know that your next step is going to be to book your venue, because once you've negotiated and you've gotten the concessions that you want and you found the person you want to work with and the venue space that works for you, move forward on the next step, which is working on your contracts and
Pull
getting
that
that.
trigger.
So we'll definitely follow up with another episode specifically on contracts, because that is an integral part of putting together your event. So stay tuned for that. Any other thoughts on this one?
That's it.
Yeah, I think the main thing is just go forward with confidence that you have some now more tools and tips and strategies to be able to use. Start using them,
Yeah,
right?
and you have choices.
And what
also.
you do, and you're not ever
Stuck in this little
stuck to one
box.
venue or one option, especially when you give yourself time.
Yeah,
So
keep-
take the
keep
time
yourself open. Have a couple open just in case.
and figure out which one is the best fit, which one has the best flow, which one feels the best. Sometimes you go with that feeling like, okay, these are pretty
Yeah.
equal, but I'm feeling like
Use your gut.
this one is a better one. Go with that one, right? So in the meantime, make sure you're, us talking to you is only, as good as us talking to you. You've got to now take this, utilize it, put it in your tool belt, put it into your arsenal of things that you're using, and start going forward and implementing this information.
For sure.
And in the meantime, if you have any questions or comments or
reach out anytime.
Feedback or things that you would like us to cover on another episode, reach out. We
We'll
love
do that for
interacting
you.
with you guys. We love hearing from you and building out, a larger, stronger event community. And in the
Yes.
meantime, just keep doing what you're doing and go forward with confidence and start taking action on the things that we've taught you. And we will
And
talk to you
thank
again
you.
soon. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
We love hearing from you, so please leave your comments and feedback and submit any questions you have. We'd also love for you to like us on Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest, and subscribe to our page on YouTube and hit that little bell to be notified when our videos go live. If this episode resonated with you or you got value out of it, please share and tell your friends and colleagues so together we can continue to build a thriving event community. Sharing and telling others really does help, and that's how we're able to grow this community and reach more people. We appreciate you and look forward to bringing you another value-packed episode. Remember, it only takes an instant to make an impact.